All right, we're back, and we're gonna try and pick back up where we meant to the last episode, talking personality tests, and we mentioned human design, and then we went off in another direction, but we're gonna take another stab at it this time. I just took my Myers-Briggs test this morning, so I have a little bit of, fresh insight into it all.
Yeah, right.
It turns
Well,
out we're not too far off, like you said. You called it the emotional stuff.
yeah, right. We're both a bunch, a couple of emotional, you know, disasters.
Yeah, exactly.
Overly emotional. I mean, we might as well be girls, Sal.
Don't remind me. I you know, it's been called out, I guess, in my life, and I just didn't really think much of it as far as having a emotional side. It's got me in trouble a few times, for sure.
Yeah, like it's not a walk in the park, being an emotional, mess all the time.
The so the yeah, I don't know. The Myers-Briggs, I got ESFP, and you got one of the times you took it, right?
I,
ISFP.
I can't I can't remember any of them.
Oh
But
yeah.
well, I've taken it 3 times now though, and I got 3 different results. So I thought that was kind of strange. Like I, I don't know.
Well, are they the same exact questions, or are they slightly
Yeah,
different?
they seem to be the same questions, yeah,
Your mood or whatever is changing your answers a little bit, obviously.
or something. Yeah, something. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so like I mentioned to you, like having these kind of randomish questions, and then like my subjective answers. I keep getting these different results, so I think like something like the human design or the enneagram, that's basically just based on your birthday, which doesn't change. You only have to answer one question, what's your birthday, and it spits out its magical answer. So I think those are kind of more interesting because like the fact that it keeps changing with the Myers-Briggs thing for me is kind of annoying. you know
I hear you. Okay. Yeah,
I mean, because they all, all three, results that I got seem to fit. So, I mean, there's lots of similarities between the 3 different, but they're, I don't know.
the Enneagram one, I looked at it, or I didn't really, I did the test, but then didn't do any other thinking about it too much. So, uh, I don't know anything about it, but I know that it like said, sometimes people misread what they are, and if you're not this, then you're possibly this. It was like giving you like a secondary recommendation type of thing. Uh,
Right.
but the Myers-Briggs, I only took the one time, so maybe I should do it again myself.
I don't know. I mean, just for the hell of it, because I wondered about that. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll just try it again. And then I got a different answer. I'm like, holy shit, let's
Well,
go for 3, So,
here, I have enough notes here. I can refresh you. And so I like what you're saying. Let's move on to the birthday solid ones. But, you know, the E, the first, or the I is your first letter. And so that's either kind of answering these questions that point to you're more of an introvert or you're more of an extrovert. And, I think there's 3 out of 4 of there's only 4 letters where every time I was kind of caught at first in the middle, like, could see myself either way. One of them was like clear cut. And so that was generally the extrovert one. The extrovert one was pretty clear cut for me that I operate from the outside noise, not like I guess introvert would be someone that is more so getting their inspiration to act, to output their energy
Yeah.
solely through their own thoughts, and what they come up with. I'm influenced by the outside noise to then energize or whatever. So then then the second one was intuitive versus sensing. Is this ringing a bell, right? Or no?
I think so, yeah.
And yeah, like you're saying, depending on, so I think maybe I cheated or not cheated. I really waited to answer that one, whether I was an intuitive person or a sensing person, and in the end, I went with sensing, which is this more emotional part of us, like we're saying. Whereas, like I was saying in the first topic, but I still feel like I have a very rational, calculated side of me, and that's why I was caught in between with that one, being
Yeah, totally. I can totally see that. And, and it's like, depending on kind of, what pops into your head, like as an example of whether you're intuitive or sensing, right? Because like that's kind of the way I'd think of something, that was like an example of how to, answer the question or whatever, like an event or whatever, that kind of determined my answer. So it is, anyway, so yeah, I mean, maybe, it could go, either way.
yeah, and then the other one is T or F, so that's thinking versus feeling. Um, and we both seem to side with feeling. And then the last one is a J versus a P, which is judging versus prospecting. Yeah, but yeah, I don't want to pretend. I have very little thoughts on it all. I don't want to pretend I know a ton about this. So it's like we could break it all down, and we also don't have to. And I know,
Well, I mean, we don't. I don't think that's like really
yeah, I felt
necessary. Like,
it
uh,
did point out that one a couple things that I kind of lost wind of. I feel like over the years, I, I mentioned to you, and that ESFP is just labeled like the entertainer or the class clown. And I got
I
class.
was wondering if you identified with that.
Oh, I got class clown always on like the tests or the surveys in school. I was always kind of labeled that. I was playing the role well, but
How funny.
I lost it over the years, or I trimmed it up or something. I mean, I still like it. I mean, obviously, I'm always out to get some laughs and all that, but I've been conducting myself in a more controlled way or something that uh my class
Yeah,
classes are more care or they're not politically correct or something. I now maybe I stop myself a little bit too much because of that, and you know,
that's funny because I mean, I wouldn't have guessed it.
right.
I wouldn't have read that and thought, oh, like that sounds like you. I wouldn't have.
Yeah, I'm really reserved now. So yeah, that's really been making me think since that the other stuff too hit home. So it was all on point for me, that one. It just really called me.
Interesting.
I'll take another one, but that was, and then the careers, they say teacher, entrepreneur, something with relationships, or public relations manager for like a company or a brand or a business or something. And I don't know, the entrepreneur and stuff, obviously that's what I've always done, but that PR brand manager one, I never would have thought of something like that. But then I was like, I kind of been doing that lately. I'm really, because a part of this person is cool with promoting others and bringing others and trying to get others to do well. And I kind of
Right,
like,
right.
I've been doing it in ways with my friends, little stuff here and there. Always quick to try and get them some new business or what have you.
Right, right. I just tell, you know, I just tell people, friends I know, just send boobs and vagine.
Very.
Send bubs and vagine.
Does that work out for you?
Sometimes I get, some, vagine or bubs or whatever.
Very good for you. And then I could go off in another direction because of that, but I'm
No, no, there's no reason to keep going with that.
gonna those guys, I guess you guys are all over the internet. You, you,
Absolutely. You
but
know, I make annoying sales calls all day long.
for the,
Yes. Do you need to refinance your car?
mm,
I can help. Send boobs and vagine. I help.
oh man, it probably does get you a little bit. Scams are everywhere. Well, all right, let's bring it back to the scams though. That's the conversation at hand. Not saying these are scams, not at all. They're very interesting. But how you and I are, and we went from the Myers-Briggs to the Enneagrams. We got to talk about human design, and again, might end up being me trying to like describe it a little bit just for the sake of this conversation. But then from that point, we could, discuss it, how it's strange where it came from and what's in like pattern recognition with this that story. Human design is another system that's not very old. It's really picked up steam in the last 20 years or so. Uh Supposedly it really spawned in 1987, and a man was in Spain, and he got a download from The Voice. And here I'm reading directly from an article. Human design was invented or revealed, depending on your view, in 1987 by Ra Uru, who was born Robert Allen Krakauer, a Canadian formerly advertising exec and magazine publisher. One evening in his adopted home in Ibiza, he encountered The Voice. It asked him, "Are you ready to work?" To which he must have replied because affirmatively, because he spent the next 8 days and nights transcribing what was turns out to be a 400-page textbook. Um, Sounds like, schizophrenic breakdown or acid trip, but for him it was a moment of divine revelation. What emerged was human design, a holistic self-knowledge system that combines astrology, Kabbalah, Myers-Briggs, and like I Ching, quantum physics, the chakra system, and a load of other stuff to generate an energetic blueprint called a body graph. This is a map of a genetic code that shows how your energy is here to engage in the world. So it's, yeah, the body graph thing is, so similar to the idea of they call it a birth chart. And
Yeah.
it's, stemming from this information for all of these, simply not the Myers-Briggs, but the birth date ones, like you mentioned earlier. All
Yeah.
we're saying is, it got recorded the exact time on the time system we use when we came into
Yeah.
the, and now at our age, I'm 37, whatever.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
can go ask my mom, the time I was born, exact time, and now plug it in these systems, and it's spitting out this crazy information. And
Yeah.
they're everyone's saying it's like they're rabbit holes. So if you really want to go crazy with it and find out more about where the information's coming from and why it seems to sound so accurate, you can. And then everyone's that seems to give it a shot, do that to different levels.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, I hadn't really thought to, I've, you only told me about the human design thing like what, a couple of days ago, so I actually hadn't read anything about, the author of it. I wasn't sure. It struck me as something that, like some corporation or something, put out, rather than an individual.
Well, so the founder is a former, exec.
I think that may be because you remember you told me that, like corporations and stuff like that use that human design tool to kind of pick, people to put together on teams or whatever, who would work together well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. So I thought it was kind of designed for that purpose rather than, something larger. Yeah.
no, it seems to be have a larger uh
Yeah. Well, especially being channeled. I mean, that's wild.
yeah, and then he comes out with, in the beginning with a pseudo name for it all. I
Uh,
mean, maybe it was always known it was that other Robert Allen Krakauer, but
Yeah. Interesting choice of a name, though, wouldn't you say?
yeah, Ra.
Raw. Yeah. Hello.
Okay. And then I mean, yeah, it's just the download way to start a big system is many times over we can talk about, or and then I don't know, just I'm thinking of Bitcoin at the moment, like the spawn of crypto was like this, the same storyline. It came out with a pseudo guy and
I
this
know, right? I mean,
benevolent game plan. And now it's, quick, it's picking up steam. It was like it started right when it needed to now both these systems because this Vice, Vice, right? Like how it's corny and
yeah,
real leftist journalism. It's funny I decided to read this article, but I appreciate what I gleaned from it. And he mentions a bunch of times over how different little communities, pockets, physical and probably like corporate communities, but also like places like he was in Mexico and that's where he discovered human design because in this pocket of Mexico, it was like taken over. Someone was advertising it really hard to get everyone to go figure out their human design information. And so
weird.
that's the
Huh,
end of this Vice article on how he discovered it and learned more about
huh.
it.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it till a couple days ago.
I have a friend, Margaret. I was thinking I'd chat with her again soon. She's the one that introduced me to it a few years ago. She's
Oh,
she's got a very solid take on that and astrology and a lot of things. You'd like Margaret. She's a big reader and artist.
oh yeah.
She's cool. She's cool. I haven't seen her. I think she's in New York now. I don't know where she lives actually. Michigan, New
Huh.
York, Chicago. I can't remember. Um, what
Ugh,
were
gross. Some freaking caterpillar just like fell off the ceiling or something and dropped on me.
not always the case, the caterpillar, but that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So the interesting origin of the human design. And, I mean, I'll just mention it, that, when I read that, that, bio or whatever, the guy that you sent to me, the first thing I thought of was that Course in Miracles, New Age, crazy cult book that was channeled as well.
Oh, so that information that is it okay. They're
So
claiming channeling.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like this woman supposedly channeled Jesus, and her CIA boyfriend or whatever he was is the one who wrote it all down. I mean, this is a fat book too.
Got you. That's the CIA connection. Got it. The boyfriend, or that's the what they're
Yeah,
telling.
whoever the hell he was, but yeah, like I haven't read about it in a long time, but yes.
And then it's hashing out what kind of plan the new age.
And, and this woman, yeah, this woman was like some sort of like atheist professor of some kind at Columbia, of all places, you know, uh, the one who's channeling Jesus, an atheist, professor at Columbia. Weird. So I'm sorry, what was your question?
What is the channeling, the synopsis of it? What she's saying, something, prophecy, or what we need to do, or she created something?
No, it's yeah. Well, the book is basically this like it's like this kind of mental training, to obliterate your ego, and it's total new age, insanity.
Okay, what year did that come out, you said?
I'm not. I don't really precisely remember. It's been around for a while. I think maybe it was in the '60s or early '70s that the channeling was done, something like that. Um, and then they published it probably not too long after, hot off the CIA press.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. How do I wouldn't lump all these things we're talking about together. I'm
No,
gonna
I hear you, but
I'll try.
I'm just saying that's what occurred to me when I heard about like the guy channeling his human design. Uh,
Well, I think of all this stuff. What's the Mormon origin story? Like
oh
that's
yeah, right. Another, right. The well, he was looking at golden plates that it was all written down on, that were the location of which was revealed to him by a salamander.
mhm.
So another likely story. Yeah, totally.
Okay, so I want to like say something for the record, but then how I'm gonna say it, you probably won't agree. But something like, okay, all we're talking about is the creation of a system, and then however you want to judge the system is up to you to judge it. Like, we just want to say all the Mormonism, it was just all bad. Yeah, I want to be careful with Mormonism, Christianity, but like the astrology, I don't know where you could say astrology has been for, but these ones we're talking about now, it's nice we can see that they're saying there's this starting point that's not that long ago. The human design, or for off the record, human design has a lot of interesting information to me that is, yeah, it's insightful.
Yeah,
Haven't heard that before. Um, and again, speaks true. It sounds like me, and Margaret is she'll read your chart and tell you what's going on. I guess, we're human design, whatever they are, reader. So she would be able to do that with a lot of people, connect their body chart with, you know, she'll pull from it and start talking about you, and you're gonna be like, wow, that is me. And so
well, yeah,
the body chart is like, it's like a guy, like, kind of, you can't see my legs, but sitting like this, and then there's these different symbols and shapes and stuff in it, and it's got numbers and colors, and they can read these things differently. Each one of us, because of our birth dates, has a different one, and that's how they're interpreting it. And guessing everyone has already knows what a zodiac birth chart looks like, where it's a circle and there's information on it, and it's pointing the
yeah.
way.
It's got the lines going up every which way and little funny symbols and stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
So these systems are out there. All the system asks for is a date and time and
yeah, I know, right? I mean,
a location. So
yeah,
it's saying a soul was born into this realm, this earth, in this date and time location. And then they can like say we can pinpoint the energy point, really, of and all energy works. They're saying someone, I don't know. So that's
yeah.
insane. Who knows this information of how all energy works, and then they can talk about it and systematically classify it. And so basically what is being said is, or I'm always saying, energy, this world, it's always the same. All the elements, all the different things at play, and then you can just systematically group it differently. And over time, that is what we do. We just always do that. And sometimes new systems are coming in, old ones are still here, and it's all overlapped and kind of gets messy because of that. But that's all that's ever going on. And sometimes we
Oh,
talk into a religion more than this astrology stuff, but it's still some similar ideas. How to manipulate energy in the form of a person that takes belief into the narrative that then makes them act in a certain way. A cult, is the same way.
yeah, occult influences, you mean? Like the stars, or you say, kind of like that, like the stars influence our
No, just
actions or our sort of trajectory in life.
a system to me is got rules to it, it's got definitions to it, parameters. So then
Oh,
once you identify by that system, you're going to start acting within it. It's, I think what I was trying to say. And then there's all these different varieties of that vague idea. Some of them are, yeah. But those, I mean, that's the Matrix movies. That's the same idea. All these matrices conducting how we do things. And so someone's coming up with human design, man. It's only like 30 years old. Or it's the same. I was born in 1987. It was spawned the year I was born, and like it's pretty. It's
well, so then you could be to blame
um,
in that case.
somehow. No, I don't know. There's nothing to blame. It's just bizarre. Oh, it's just,
Well, it struck me as odd that like somebody who, one minute is like a magazine publisher and whatever else, he was doing. Uh, I mean, those are some very, kind of off the beaten track kind of interests, for somebody who's a magazine publisher who seems to have no connection, right, to any of the kind of like new agey occult, stuff,
yeah, it's
uh,
fucked up.
but then like, I mean, because like, well, that's interesting. So, so is he claiming then like no prior knowledge of any of those things, astrology, um, chakras, and just the rest of the list, of stuff that he incorporated or whatever. So he had no prior interest, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's like a whiz, like on all these, the sort of broad range of subjects or whatever, you know, or he really did like channel it, which I don't deny the possibility at all, that that really was the case. But you know, anyway, it's just his story is odd, don't you think?
Yeah, I deny it real quickly. Like it's a pet story, so for me, I have no problem calling it out. Like I don't really believe that. It's always the same. I mean, Harry Potter, like we've talked about all these different ideas where oftentimes it sounds like there's a committee of people behind something, not the one person that gets all the glory, and it's the name of the game of the characters we're up against. So yeah, it sucks that I have to go to, I hate going here, but it's like, yes, there are some people that do have some superior knowledge. As much as I always also like to argue that it's all humans out here and the world is okay. It's not as bad as everyone lots of people like to believe and talk about, and I don't in a lot of different ways. I always argue it's exactly where it should be, and whatever, glass half.
Well, I think that anybody with like cancer, it's the right time. Absolutely, don't fight it. Just enjoy it. That's
It's
what
the right time to go.
no, like, like anybody with cancer is what I was saying. Like, it's like, I would tell them, it's just the right time for that. You know, that, don't be worried. Just enjoy your cancer. Because
Where
you
is this
know,
coming from? How you? I don't know what you're saying though.
I was kind of poking fun at what you were saying. You know,
Yeah,
that everything is just where it needs to be. You know,
I just like to.
or people are where they're just where they need to be and stuff like
Well, all these
you.
conversations quickly fall into ideas of the world being fallen. We're not in control and all kinds of stuff that I just like to quickly. I'm always like I'm not on that side. So whether we're talking about cancer or suffering or wars or the end, why would God do this? Which we do talk about, we will talk about, I'm sure. Just uh, I like to talk about it, but also always try and get out of it because I feel like it's a trap and it's like the brightness, the light inside of me is about trying to show people how it's so easy to fall into that trap. And then all of a sudden you're a victim and this, you
I
start.
don't think it's. I don't think it just automatically goes to I'm a victim or something, or we're all victims or anything like that. I think acknowledging the just general misery and suffering, and the trauma of existing in the place we exist in. It's a great incentive to not want to come back again.
That it was all good until you made the point not come back again, which is irrelevant. No one knows what's going on. So that's why it's like get your head out of the gutter of the suffering and stuff.
I
All
don't. I don't agree with that. I don't agree that like that reincarnation is not real. I don't think it's a matter of belief. I think the evidence that has been compiled, not and that's not even like mentioning that every culture, religion, what have you, has had a belief in reincarnation since the dawn of time, apparently. So I don't think you can just like throw it out like is a not only like a possibility but a likely one. you know so I think it is something to consider. you know
well, I have considered it, and I'm on my
yeah.
side understanding patterns. The patterns are always people describing things that are not in the now. And I understand the patterns of the great visionaries that talk about the now being the present and the power of positivity, and where these conversations quickly are not positive and you can claim them to being real and it's part of, but you're losing for yourself and your outlook on the world and how it works. And it's always worked. It seems pretty constant in how this has
Well,
been.
it seems, I mean, but the way it works, I mean, Hegel, the philosopher Hegel, he called history a slaughter bench. Was he an ignoramus who didn't understand history or whatever? I
Always
don't think so. I mean, I think that's a pretty accurate description.
sure. Then
So so it's not a matter of like being cheerful
it's
or
happening.
not. You can acknowledge that, things are the way they are, and it's not in a good, way, generally speaking. Um,
What am I acknowledging?
and go about life in a perfectly cheerful, unhurried way.
I'm acknowledging that Hegel and you have a tunnel vision to look at life that way and not hone in on beauty only and have tunnel vision on beauty and love and goodness. And certain people have that all day long, especially feminine, like your mom, for example, people that aren't, quote unquote, have blinders on to all kinds of tough stuff. They get things that a philosopher like you and I don't. And it's our own mind that takes us to these places. You want me to say Hegel has it figured out because he only focuses on, or he wants to make sure we can all see how tough it's been and how bad a war can get, and a prison and all the ugliest things we can think of. Well, that's tunnel vision. It is what it is because life is
Well, I
infinite.
mean, but you could
No,
take
I
you
know
could
nothing.
take your examples, of like, love and beauty and everything else, and I and anybody else who's like got their eyes open and their ears and stuff, like can give you plethora of examples of how love doesn't last, love, can just be used, as a tool of manipulation. Same with beauty and all that stuff. I mean, come on. How about all the ads with the cute girls and selling you something and whatever? Well, there's beauty, but it's being used as a, in the cheapest kind of way.
I didn't have to get so passionate. I knew all along.
What are you doing?
The analogy was right there, man. It's your choice. You want to be a half empty or half full guy. It's always the choice. Hegel, Kokomice, that's my last name. It's your choice. You want to talk about those things and
Well,
rattle?
I think that's a cop out. I think that's a complete cop out. I honestly do. Your glass illustrates nothing. It doesn't.
It's what I've been talking about on my page since you've known me. Perspective is everything. So it is. It's showing perspective and how everyone has it.
Okay.
And if you want your perspective to be a negative Nancy, there's plenty of, and I could show it. And there's a whole internet of people that don't play like that at all. They never have these conversations. It's never on their radar. And they're not, and your suffering is your own suffering. Only you can suffer. Only you can suffer and take it on. And you can imagine everyone else is suffering too, as much as you like. Have at it.
Well, you don't have to imagine it. You can just see it.
Again, that's when your world becomes that. I don't
You
go
don't know
around.
anybody in your life who's suffering ever. You don't see anybody suffering.
Well, life is like waves of stuff that happens. So once in a while that happens. Yeah, a couple weeks ago I was suffering because my cat passed away. My buddy in the group chat, same thing happened to him. He lost the cat. It's painful. And that's a wave that'll come and go. Now, if I want to say life is only that and I just keep, it's always, that's again, it's your perspective. You want to, the suffer thing is your favorite thing to talk about?
It's not
Cool.
my favorite thing to talk about. I mean, it's the
I
entire
know, I'm making
premise
a
of
point.
like Hinduism and Buddhism, for example. I mean, it's not like it's like something I invented or something, or like I'm so excited to, jump on that kind of bandwagon. Like, oh, that's just what I would, want, oh, the world is full of suffering, you know, to exist, existence is suffering, that's what Buddhism says. Uh, life is suffering.
We're about to,
I mean, it's not like some desirable position, to take, and the thing is like, if you're talking about perspective, aren't we always sort of like talking about like seeing the big picture rather than like, the forest for the trees kind of thing, right? The big picture, right? The big picture includes all the suffering. Yeah, it includes all the love and beauty and lights and, rainbows